Let's attend the day. I'm Isaiah Banky, the writer behind LifeLook, and this is Attending the Days, the audio side of the project, where I read the essays aloud. Today, essay number 4, Liberated, the Beauty of Return. What happens when we let go? What was scattered, gathers. What was gathered, blows apart. Heraclitus, Fragment 40. A few months before Anne died, we stood in her kitchen. It was late October, one of those soft early evenings when the light had already decided to leave, retreating through the window in long, half-hearted lines. I closed her laptop, problem solved, and I hung up my tech support hat for the night. I just needed to tend to a few more things in her space before wrapping up. Upstairs, the muffled sounds of my children drifted downward. Bathwater started, voices soft, the small rituals of bedtime in motion. Anne, my mother-in-law, joined our home 3 years earlier, transforming us from a family of 4 into a fuller 5. In short order, we learned how to move around and with each other, sometimes closely knit, sometimes slipping quietly into our own routines, all of us shaped by the welcome contours of shared generational living. "How are you doing?" I asked, half distracted, changing the garbage bin, already mentally scrolling through which bedtime stories or meditations might settle the kids and myself. "Fine," she said, her usual even tone. Fine was her natural, regular default response, and I often accepted that, trusting she would say otherwise if that were not the case. Tired or fine were reliable signals. Yet something in her voice that night gave me pause. I turned slowly toward her, my hand still on the counter at the opposite end of where she leaned. Our eyes met. "Anne, how are you really doing?" I asked again, softly, insistently. She glanced away, inhaled deeply, held it for a moment, then exhaled slowly. The kitchen seemed to expand and shrink with her breath. Our eyes reconnected. "Liberated," she said. Time suspended. The room changed, yet nothing really happened. The background noise of the house, the running water upstairs, the distant voices of my kids, all faded. A quiet clarity filled the space between us, as if the air itself had thinned. I stood still, not wanting to disturb whatever just opened between us. The refrigerator hummed, the clock tick-tick-tock over my left shoulder. Beyond the window, the low evening light slipped deeper into silence. Liberated converted the space between us, invisibly hovering in the quietness, undeniable in its force. For those few extraordinary moments, we shared something beautifully ineffable, yet elegantly clarified. Eventually, reluctantly, I broke the spell. "What does that mean?" I asked, my voice swallowed by the space. She declined to elaborate, her voice gentle, a bit staggered by her underlying condition, yet determined. "I just feel liberated," she said. I nodded, sensing that pressing further would diminish this something important. We stayed in that moment together, the word hanging between us like a delicate thread strung between two realities. Mine bound to laundry, bedtimes, bills, careers, the dog, things to do, the endless list. Hers, already loosening from lists, from attachments, from associations, and she loosened from more. 4 months later, after she died, I understood the depth of generosity she shared with me that evening in the kitchen. The clarity that comes from releasing everything we think we are. The freedom encountered through forms of acceptance. She knew, and probably for quite some time. Her final weeks unfolded as close to her plans as one could wish. Anne lived 7 years with the rare neurological disorder that slowly eroded her body but left her mind intact. The cruelty of her disease lay in that awareness. The mind remained sharp while the body rebelled. After several years of navigating her debilitating condition, the physical falling apart had taken its toll. She struggled to speak and swallow. Her mobility narrowed to a stiff shuffle. The window of her defined quality of life was shuttering. In early January, she chose to stop eating and drinking, a final act of clarity, an act of freedom. She started her final decision on Wednesday night, and by Saturday, she transitioned from palliative to hospice care. One of the nurses informed us people who stop eating and drinking usually pass within 1 to 2 weeks. Anne died 8 days later, following her own timeline just as she had throughout much of her life. She released with love and peace in her own bed, at her own home, in her own way. Hospice offered guidance, a light gravity on the periphery, while we attended through the days and nights. My spouse slept beside Anne those first few evenings, both of us moving between vigilance and exhaustion, learning how love changes shape in the shadow of departure. The hospice nurse checked in, never in a hurry, helping us trust that nothing urgent needed fixing during this time. As the death doula visited us, her presence gentle and practical, she invited us to notice what mattered most and let the rest just fall away. Their calm steadied us, but Anne set the rhythm. Her quiet grace in the face of everything held those seemingly endless days. Even as her body weakened, her spirit held the room together. Together, our hands, our voices, our tears, our smiles, our being held each other through each uncertain hour. In the hush of that care, ours, theirs, hers, a different kind of presence peeked through, one you feel most keenly when the world narrows to a single bedside and the hours drift between memory and what's next. During those final days, we bore witness to the quiet unraveling of bodily form and to the deepening presence that revealed itself behind it. Dying arrives as a process, a gradual shedding. Earth, water, fire, air. Franco Staszewski sat with the dying for decades in his Zen hospice center and watched them leave in that order. He shares that these elements represent more than metaphors or representations of things. They offer a lived vocabulary for the experience of witnessing a person disappear from physical form while growing somehow brighter in the immaterial. It is said that when we die, body and mind unravel together in a shared, interdependent process of co-creation and destruction. 4 elements form and release, refolding and unfolding. Earth, water, fire, and air reach past the body's structure. They shape our emotions, our thoughts, even our creativity. Earth holds firmness and tenderness, steadiness and give. Water carries cohesion and flow, flexibility and constancy. Fire swings between warmth and intensity. Air moves between stillness and motion. These forces rise and recede together, the way breath follows heartbeat, the way living and letting go always stay in conversation. First, Anne's body lost solidity. Her legs weakened, her foundation caved. This is earth dissolving. Her previously grounded presence, always gentle yet persistent, softened into the bed beneath her. Her hands, once firm enough to work her sewing magic, prune her plants, and manage a sprawling human resources team, now rested lightly on the sheets, barely making an impression. The hardness of bone and muscle yielded to gravity. Water followed. Her circulation slowed. Her ability to swallow waned. Her speech became infrequent, then sparse. Like a glacier calving into the sea, parts of her that once held shape and function quietly slipped away. Her ability to connect a thought to the next thought, to flow from one topic to another, gradually stilled. And yet she radiated with warmth whenever her daughter, the grandkids, or I entered the room. Her eyes followed us, a quiet current of attention barely flowing beneath the surface. Then came fire, the metabolic flickering. Her temperature fluctuated. Her energy, once enough to sit upright and smile, turned inward. That inner heat, previously a source of love and tenacity, gathered at her core like dying embers on a cold night. Scientists explain that we contain atoms forged in stellar explosion billions of years ago. The calcium in our bones, the iron in our blood, all created in the heart of dying stars. Big Bang, converted potential, consciousness repurposed, the dynamic cycle of co-creation and destruction. Poets reach for similar explanations through different language. We are fallen or dimmed light, cosmic fire cooled into temporary form. Science and art arrive at this realization through different paths. We're brief arrangements of borrowed elements, a momentary congregation of stardust that eventually rejoins the universe that shaped us. Life and death co-create form and release, unfolding and refolding. We are temporary arrangements of ancient elements. Anne's fire element began its return journey. The cooling began at her extremities, moving slowly inward, as if her life force were condensing to its essential nature. Eventually, fire gave way to air. Breathing became shallow. The erratic, long pauses filled the room between breaths. No distress, no struggle for oxygen, just sparse, gradually replacing rhythm. Just space gradually replacing rhythm. We found ourselves unconsciously matching our breath to hers, then holding it during those extended pauses, as if collectively participating in the gradual loosening of her from life. Then came stillness. In that sacred space between her final breath and what followed, I experienced the awesome power of being with somebody becoming non-being. Someone unbecoming. Someone refolding into themselves. Someone returning. Someone I loved and knew loved me and our family with all her might, powerfully yielding to returning. Words can't capture the essence of this transition, this turning within stillness, back toward origin that embodies the cyclical nature of existence itself. Beauty manifesting and unmanifesting. Our elements dissolve, our essence reimagined. The ancient wisdom traditions describe this process with elegant simplicity. Earth yields to water, water transforms to fire, fire dissolves into air, air expands into space, and space opens to pure consciousness. What remains is more than absence. It's a subtle presence that permeates the room, something undeniable yet unmeasurable, recognized not by instruments but by something within us that knows it immediately. Consciousness transformed well beyond our linguistic grasp. The doings of nature leave their footprints behind, like the wet ground after the rain stops, or at the beach where your foot imprints in wet sand. When we die, our body is the vestige of our previous doings that linger after nature stops its disassociative process. And dying doesn't happen all at once. It's a gradual withdrawal from life and form. It's a dissolution of our ego. The four elements dissolving name something ineffable and observable at once. Those animating qualities so conspicuously absent in the body afterward. Science measures the physical disintegration with precision, but the inner dissolution happening simultaneously remains subtle and still. Our instruments capture data, but not the mystery. The Tao Te Ching offers this wisdom. The returning is the movement of the Tao. The weak is the utilization of the Tao. The myriad things of the world are born of being. Being is born of non-being. We can interpret this passage as a gesture to the rhythm of return, the movement of all things back to source. The weak doesn't mean feeble, but soft, yielding, adaptable. This flexible pliancy characterizes what propels life forward. In a sense, it's the aspects of those four elements of existence. Living things bend and adjust. The stiff and unyielding, like dried branches, break under pressure. This applies equally to our minds. An awareness in tune with nature bends like a young sapling in strong winds, responsive, curious, and alive to possibility. but a mind that grips its certainties like talismans, that reflexively barricades itself against unfamiliar ideas, that mind has already completed a kind of death. The body walks, talks, scrolls through endless feeds, but some essential animating force is weakened or nearly departed. We've created a peculiar modern condition where many of us move as if half asleep, drifting through days like unconscious, living corpses. The zombie apocalypse isn't coming. It's here. It's here in our rigid thinking, our mindless scrolling, our poverty of attention, our reflexive rejections, our desperate clinging to what we imagine is permanent when nothing is. This disease of distraction narrows our mental airways and disrupts our breathing, stifling the vitality that could expand our lifescape. Avoidance collapses our lungs, leaving us breathless, while awareness lights the breath we still hold and release. We scroll past horizons that might have widened us. We can feel, paradoxically, more absent than those who have already died, yet faced impermanence with open awareness. The Tibetan yogi Milarepa reminded his students that the corpse we fear is living with us here and now, present in every breath and heartbeat. Death isn't an event waiting somewhere in the distance. It moves with us. It rides the morning commute, sits across from us at lunch, lingers through the evening meal, and tucks in beside us at night. Life carries death as its companion. Rather than diminish life's light, this companionship deepens and expands it. When we recognize that death is certain in its coming and unknowable in its hour, we stop postponing the reckoning. We stop playing peekaboo with the universe, covering our eyes as though what we refuse to see cannot find us. We can walk with paradox. Death is always near, and therefore, so is life. Anne lived with this awareness. While disease narrowed her health span, her openness widened her horizon and expanded her lifescape. Each breath carried more weight, each step more fragility, each moment more radiance. Where our culture suffers a disease of avoidance, she turned toward what we fear most, carrying dying alongside living. In that companionship, she revealed the strength to release, the grace to return, and the love that somehow grew firmer as her form dissolved. Gradually, Anne's body, once soft, pliant, resilient, yet responsive to change, became hard and stiff. The flower of death bloomed inside her. While her mind remained clear and open until nearly the end, her body cooled and stiffened. She played in every way her part of the cycle of return, being becoming non-being. In her final days, resistance ceased. Her awareness thinned like morning fog as we felt her presence swell, then recede. She seemed to dissolve into the space she once occupied, like steam from a kettle dissipating into air, no longer visible, but still somehow there. As a species, when we trace our origins back, we eventually realize we existed first as nothing but pure potential. Our being, or existence, emerges from non-being, or non-existence. This realization counteracts our worldly attachments, physical and mental. When we grasp this, our clinging makes no sense at all. Anne embodied this understanding and shared that insight with me in her kitchen that evening months before, and even more fully in her final days, holding nothing, resisting nothing, simply being the beauty of return. There were no universally understood metaphysical claims in our shared household, no dogmatic assertions about what happens after death. We don't know. Claims on such certainty degrade the intrinsic mystery of things. But there was something felt in our heartbeats, in intuition, a soft, resonant experience that transcended our usual categories of thought. Even the skeptical among us, who hold no belief in subtle consciousness or something beyond the physical, perceives something radiant about the quality of existence. And when we open ourselves up to the presence of our inner radiance and understand that radiance resides in those around us, we can tap deeper into the incomprehensible mysteries of existence. These subtle aspects of being become more available as death closes in. There's a perceptible shift in the texture of presence. Not necessarily supernatural, but undeniably real, a clarity or luminosity that emerges as physical form recedes. Our vocabulary falters when trying to capture this moments. We reach for words like presence or essence, then recognize their inadequacy and fall silent. Perhaps that's this, acknowledging that direct experience transcends our explanatory frameworks. What we witness and experience matters more than and with our ability to categorize and measure. What becomes undeniable when sitting with the dying is that impermanence forms the bedrock of existence. Life constantly comes together and falls apart. At death, sure, but also always. We generally agree that life flows in constant flux, yet clinging to the illusion that we ourselves are solid entities moving through a changing world. Everything is changing except me, we tell ourselves. While true at some level, we entangle meanings. We are not the roles we play: accountant, teacher, lawyer, landscaper, parent, writer. We are, like everything else, simultaneously here and disappearing. And we'll find, as Ostaseski writes, the more permeable we become, the more we realize that we are just bundles of ever-changing conditions. When we relax our grip and flow with flux, we open to the wider plane of awareness. Sometimes in our openness, we brush the ineffable. Sometimes we sense the sacred. Anne's dying illuminated this. The collapsing of identity, the dissolving of form, and yet somehow the amplification of love. True longevity is not breath prolonged, but meaning that endures. Memory that lives on in others. Influence that persists beyond physical presence. An imprint soft, fading persistence. A shared resonance. The Tao Te Ching reminds us, those who do not lose their base endure. Those who die but do not perish have longevity. In the months following her death, I found myself less wedded to being somebody. My personality or identity sometimes felt like a balloon I had become breathless, constantly trying to inflate. As I reevaluated and internalized the fragility and meaning of my own life, I softened. I yielded a bit more. I felt more porous, more transparent, more permeable to experience. A feeling of aliveness. Anne's imprint enduring. The Zen teacher Suzuki Roshi captured this fluidity of self with striking simplicity. What we call I is just a swinging door which moves when we inhale and when we exhale. This image stays with me, a static doorway in perpetual motion, a threshold continually crossed. When we relax our grip on who we think we are, we expand. The borders thin. At first, this openness feels exposing, even dangerous, but given time, it transforms into a peculiar freedom swinging through thresholds, permeations uncovered. Anne didn't perish. She transformed fully into the mystery. She released. And in that release, she left behind something we can only call beautiful. Not clean, definitely not easy, yet radiant in its clarity and mystery. She inhabited her part of the return. Heraclitus's words surface here. What was scattered gathers. What was gathered blows apart. In the river of life where Anne set her feet, she's now gone, dissipated into a mere imprint. Those waters giving way to this, now this. Each moment gathers and dissolves, not two the same, yet each a return. Our shared impermanence draws us closer. When we recognize, then abide with, the fragile, temporary nature of our lives, artificial barriers dissolve. Compassion flows from knowing we belong, together, within a greater field of being. Empathy courses naturally from understanding that we all move to the same cosmic rhythm of emergence and return. Relationships flourish within our unified sense of being. Our separateness is illusory, our connectedness closer to reality. We arise within a unified field of existence, endlessly refracting itself through each life and death, each gathering and return. Awareness is at the bottom of everything. Consciousness is all there is. We do not live as isolated selves. We are both the ocean and the wave, the background and the foreground of every story we tell ourselves, stretched across our existence. Matter and consciousness move as two faces of the same underlying reality, like water shifting forms, sometimes vapor, sometimes ice, sometimes flowing clear in the stream. Experience in all its extraordinary and extraordinary textures arise from this depth. We belong to each other and to everything and to nothing, bound together by the very impermanence and mystery we so often ignore or fear. When we accept this, a peculiar freedom grows. Presence widens, release becomes realized, and this moment accepts the past and stands as the only reality we possess. We realize we are mystery. It lives through us. This was Anne's abiding act of generosity. It was her liberation, my reminder. What remains moves beyond the stories we share about her and ourselves. It's the space she shapes in living and dying, a space that teaches how to exist with more softness, more permeability, and more presence. A space where we might unveil our own purpose, realize our own liberation, and wake up. Death reminds us, memento mori. 20 years ago, I met that reminder carved into wood in a Buddhist temple in London. It was 2006. I was 20-something years old, midway through my undergraduate studies, naive, likely a bit arrogant, and ravenous for knowledge. My exploratory intellectual path began years earlier when Joseph Campbell's The Hero with a Thousand Faces landed in my hands during a high school library peruse, detonating my provincial worldview. Though raised in a Christian household, Campbell exploded open doors to ancient Eastern and indigenous philosophies that my parochial education and upbringing barely acknowledged. While the concept of life cycles wasn't new to me, London offered direct embodied engagement with ways beyond my existing provincial worldview, and I absorbed them eagerly. During my first encounter with the Buddhist service, I noticed a wooden block, the Han, hanging near the entrance. It captured my curiosity and wonder. Afterward, during the Otoki, the communal meal where practitioners and visitors share food and conversation, I asked a monk about it. As he patiently showed me how to hold and use my chopsticks properly, he explained the Han's purpose, to call practitioners to meditation. After our meal, he guided me back to the entrance and showed me the characters carved into its surface. Great is the matter of birth and death. Time swiftly passes by. Wake up, each one. Don't squander your life. The words really landed. But what affected me most was what the monk showed me next. Where the mallet had struck the block over decades, the wood had hollowed. The characters faded into it. The explicit enfolding back into implicit. Each strike wore away a little more of time swiftly passes by. The block practiced what it preached. Nothing solid stays solid. We wear away. Wake up. Time swiftly passes by. This struck me with unexpected and enduring force. Despite my philosophical tendencies and religious upbringing, impermanence remained separate and abstract, an intellectual concept rather than a lived truth. But the hunch somehow made it real. A physical object gradually disappearing through intentional use, its very purpose accelerating its transformation. The block absorbed its dissolution and embodied its message through its changing form. Glimpses of our transient nature often arrive unexpectedly, sometimes as we attend to the mundane, more resonant in moments of disruption or loss. Insights await everywhere, available in this breath, this heartbeat, this kitchen conversation. Not reserved for some distant enlightenment or final release. Now is that moment you've been telling yourself you've been waiting for. You're already standing at the corner that the thing is just around. We can pick our path and start walking. Don't wait. Looking back, I see how Anne's kitchen revelation ignited my second Han. Like the strike of wood on wood, a sound that wears into silence as its echoes hollow out what I thought I knew. A flash of consciousness uncovered through a single word. The sound lingered, just as the wood of that London Han had worn thin with years of striking. Both reminders that impermanence leaves its mark, carving silence and meaning at once. Imprints in the folds of memory. Anne's generosity sculpted and lived through a single word, uncovered a sense of my truth I feel beyond intellectualizing. Like Campbell's books that once shattered my parochial worldview, her Liberated sparked a return of my attention to something enduring in me that was there all along. A kind of abiding you can forget even as you live within it. She offered me my second Han, a wearing down into something more open, steady, and awake, like that monk in London who repositioned the chopsticks of impermanence in my hand. She revealed how to hold what slips away while still keeping close the pieces that matter. And together, these encounters, separated by decades, pressed me through thresholds, doors swinging open and closed. Anne knows she is released. She is returned. She is liberated. And in witnessing her liberation, I brush against the possibility of my own. So, what happens when we let go? If this essay gave you something worth keeping, pull up a chair at the attending table. If you'd like the essays to find you, subscribe at read.lifelooknow.com. A book there is taking shape as well, and the rest of Lifelook awaits at lifelooknow.com. Come find what calls you.